Hey, welcome back. So today we're taking on one of the most famous deaths in all of history, but we're looking at it through a modern scientific lens that, honestly, is just absolutely terrifying. This is the story of the living death of Alexander the Great.
The whole mystery really boils down to this one unbelievable question. How could a body, in the scorching heat of ancient Babylon no less, not show a single sign of decay for 6 whole days? It's a question that stumped people for centuries.
Now, to really get why this was such a huge deal, you gotta remember who we're talking about. This wasn't just some king, this was Alexander the Great, a guy whose legend was already practically divine while he was still walking around.
And what is just staggering is his age. He did everything. I mean, he literally changed the world and then died at just 32 years old. Think about that. A whole lifetime of epic achievements crammed into just 3 decades.
And in that ridiculously short life, he carved out the largest land-based empire the world had ever seen. We're talking a massive territory stretching all the way from the Balkans to modern-day Pakistan. Just incredible.
But this legendary life, well, it was about to lead to a very, very mysterious death. And it all started with what historians now call his 12-day demise.
On the surface, the timeline seems pretty straightforward. It's 323 BC, and Alexander just falls violently ill. For 12 agonizing days, he's in excruciating pain, he's got a fever, he's getting weaker and weaker, until finally, on the 12th day, he's declared dead.
And that should be the end of the story, right? But nope. This is where things get really weird, because what happened next is what created this whole legend of the strangely perfect corpse.
And ancient historians are really clear about this. Plutarch, for instance, wrote that his body just didn't show any signs of decay. No smell, no bloating, nothing. It was like he was just sleeping.
And we're not talking about for an hour or two. This impossible state lasted for 6 full days. Can you even imagine the confusion and the awe his followers must have felt?
To them, the answer was pretty obvious. This had to be a sign he was a god, right? Proof of his divinity. But what if it was a sign of something else? Something medical, and a million times more horrifying.
And that, of course, is where we come in. Fast forward to today, and scientists, using our modern understanding of medicine, have a pretty compelling theory that changes everything. This wasn't a miracle. It was a medical disaster. The leading theory is a rare neurological disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome, or GBS. Basically, it's when your own immune system gets confused and attacks your nervous system. It leads to this rapid muscle weakness that can end in total paralysis.
So, what happens when you take that modern diagnosis and apply it to the ancient story? Well, you get one of the most chilling possibilities in all of history. Alexander the Great may have been buried alive.
So let's back up. The historical record is crystal clear on this one. After 12 days of suffering, his doctors officially pronounced him dead. End of story. But if that GBS theory is correct, his body might have failed him, but his mind hadn't. He was still in there, conscious, hearing everything, thinking, fully aware of what was going on around him. He wasn't a corpse. He was a living, breathing man, completely trapped inside a body that would not respond. He was a victim of total, locked-in paralysis.
And this one diagnosis, it just solves the entire ancient mystery. Why didn't he decompose? Well, because he was still alive. His body's needs would have been so low, his breathing so incredibly shallow, that there's no way anyone back then could have detected it, all while he was mentally present for his own death watch.
Which leads us to the final, absolutely inescapable conclusion of this theory. The great conqueror wasn't divinely preserved, he was the victim of a tragic, horrible misdiagnosis. He was buried alive.
And so I'll just leave you with this final, haunting thought to chew on. What does a man who thinks he's a god think about as he lies there, perfectly aware, trapped inside his own body for 6 days, watching the world build his tomb?